Hey everyone, welcome back to our discussion, episode number 6. Different types of documents or sources. So there are seven sources. The first one is primary sources. Its definition is primary sources of information include first-hand accounts of experimentation and investigation, original works and reports, etc. Primary sources are eyewitness accounts. They are reported by an actual observer or participant in an event. These primary sources or documents are divided into 38. The first part of this primary document is divided into 38 elements. So first one is the constitutions. I will explain this is 38 one. First one is constitution. Second one is charters. Third one is the laws, and fourth one is the court decisions. Fifth one is official minutes or records. Sixth one is autobiographies. And seventh one is letters. Eighth one is diaries. Ninth is genealogies. Tenth one is census information. It is very important information. Primary source census information. So when the census when census take by the government agencies, so they made some abstracts. So from these abstracts, the historian can collect a lot of information about that particular place or particular group of people, especially a particular group of people. We get more information about this tribal people about from this census information reports. So and also the next one is 11th one is the contracts, and next one is the deeds, deeds, and the 13th is the wills made by individuals, and the permits, license and permits and licenses, affidavits, depositions, declarations, proclamations, certificates. Certificates is also a very important source of primary source. Certificates, list, and handbills. Sometimes you might have handbills also a very important source of primary source. Handbills, bills, printed bills, receipts, printed receipts, newspaper and magazine accounts, advertisements, maps, diagrams, books, pamphlets, catalogs, films. Films is a very important primary source. Pictures, paintings, inscriptions, recordings, transcriptions, and research reports. These 38 importance are very important for as a primary document for a historian. So among the primary source itself, there are also archival sources, remains or relics. So the remains and relics are objects which were not deliberately intended for use in transmitting information or for use as records, but it is a clear evidence for the past to understand culture, habits, livelihood, customs, food, clothing, tools, weapons, art, religious beliefs, etc. So these archaeological remains are not made deliberately, but it is so there are 14 types of archaeological remains. First one is fossils, skeletons, tools and weapons, food, utensils, clothing, buildings, fort, furniture, pictures, paintings, coins, art objects, burial places. Burial places is very important as far as this South Indian history is concerned. This megalithic culture, megalithic remains are very important. Like Topikallu, Kodakallu, Nannannadis, and also Veerakallu, or like that. This kind of burial places is very important archival sources. And also along with this, nowadays most of the research scholars depend on the digital archives. Digital archives is very important source of primary sources. So many sources has to be transferred into digital. So it is very useful for a historian. And the next one is the oral testimony. It is also part of this primary document. It is spoken account of a witness of a or participant in an event. It is obtained in personal interviews and may be transmitted as the witness relates his or her experiences. It is a non-documentary evidence. Myth, fables, ballads, folklores were examples. It is a direct survival from the past. So oral testimony is also a part of this important primary source. So it helps a historian to reconstruct the past. So it is obtained through the, especially through the interviews. So in olden days, sometimes when we go to the field work to collect data, so sometimes we conduct some field interviews with some old people. So they give very valuable and reliable sources, information about the things. And next one is the secondary source. Secondary sources are accounts of an event not actually witnessed by the reporter. It may sometimes use, the historian uses them only when primary data are not available. So secondary sources have a second-hand information. So when the so primary sources are very important and also more reliable and authentic. So when a historian cannot collect the primary sources, it depends on the secondary sources. Secondary sources of information are summaries of information gathered from primary data. So secondary sources are made out of the primary sources. Secondary sources of data are usually limited worth of research purpose because of the errors that may result from information passed from one person to another. So there are chances of errors because the information or the knowledge information goes through from one person to another person. There is a chances of errors. There are eight kind of secondary sources. Various publications, central, state and local governments, various publications of international organizations and foreign governments, records of technical and trade organizations, books, magazines and newspapers, journals, reports of publications of various associations connected with the business and industry, banks, stock market, etc. Reports of research scholars, universities and economists, public records and statistics, historical documents and other sources of published documents. These are the important secondary sources. And next one is the tertiary sources. This is the third place in the sources, different type of sources. Tertiary sources are generally combined from secondary sources, especially a test book. It can be useful in providing an overview of broad summary of a field. The tertiary sources or third level sources are made out of the secondary sources, and the secondary sources are made out of the primary sources. Anyway, this tertiary sources has very not have much importance because it cannot be dependent or it has some the chances of fault or defects. So because it is made of the secondary sources and the secondary sources is made of the primary sources. So always relied on primary sources. And the next one is the hybrid sources. So hybrid sources means sometimes a historian use both the primary and the secondary sources. So hybrid in research, sometimes the research scholar always use these hybrid sources, both the primary, secondary and even in the tertiary source also use. And next one is very important. Nowadays, the current days, we use this kind of research scholars use this kind of sources, non-print sources, otherwise known as electronic information sources. Nowadays, most of the scholars use this kind of things because of the digital era. No? So always, non-print sources are a very important sources to reconstruct the past. Film and video tapes, CD-ROMs, computer programs, machine readable data files, range of online information like online different kind of online sources are part of this non-print sources. Online databases and also online tools, different kind of online tools like and also images and sound files. All these kind of kind of tools are the non-print sources or electronic information sources. The method of referencing electronic information sources in the test of an assignment thesis follows the same pattern as for printed sources. So these non-printed sources or electronic information sources are very important place in our this base. So these sources are divided into 7 types of sources: primary document, primary sources, archaeological sources, oral testimony, secondary sources, tertiary sources, hybrid sources, and non-print or electronic information sources. So this is about different types of sources. Okay, thank you. Please subscribe, share, and like.